grateful to be able to introduce Jane Schwartz. Jane has gone through her own job transition, learned a lot in the process, and landed a couple of years ago as a VP of Communications at Wells Fargo. And I think, and she'll discuss it more, but is looking at other things now as well. But Jane has also, in the meantime, taken part in Crossroads. She has volunteered and continues to volunteer in multiple ways. And actually, she facilitates classes. And I think as we're getting back to in-person meetings at up in Arden Hills, she'll be facilitating a class up there as well. I'm really grateful to have her share here for a few minutes this morning. And Jane, are you available?
I'm here, Harry.
There we go. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can see me. Good morning, bright and early for all you guys who got up and got online. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are watching virtually at another time, I'm glad you've taken the time to go to Minnesota Crossroads. This is a really valuable organization. My name's Jane Schwartz, as Harry mentioned. I work in communications at Wells Fargo as a vice president. And it's amazing to think that it is now 3 years since I started my journey. It'll be 3 years in November with Minnesota Crossroads through Grace Church. I just looked up the official definition of grace, and it basically is, it's help given to us by God because God desires us to have it, whether or not we do anything to deserve it. And that's a really important word. So kind of contemplate that word grace as you go through your transition. I'll touch on that at the end as well. But a little bit about my history. So it was October of 2018. I was working for a small financial services company, and we were growing. We were a fintech and young startup, and we grew by 174% that year that I was with them, because I was only there for a year. And so we were at about $100 million, and the company decided that they didn't really need a couple people in-house doing marketing. They wanted to go and use a marketing firm. So I was out on the street. Unexpected. I was on the executive committee and operating committee for the company, and came in one day and was like, oh, no reason, just they wanted to outsource their marketing. And that was really hard for me. I cried, I was angry, I was ashamed for losing my job. I thought maybe I had done something wrong, but I hadn't. They just decided to go in a different direction. Change is inevitable. It happens all the time. I'm going through some change now and deciding what I want for my career. Although I've got a very nice job with Wells Fargo, Wells Fargo's going through change. We have a new CEO. A lot of things are happening. I've been with the company for 2 years. I'm with my fourth boss and my fourth group, just due to reorganizations. So I think we really need to be able to adapt to change. And I think Kendall's going to help you with some of that today. But back in my experience, when I had lost my job, I felt cheated by those who I worked for. I felt like I couldn't trust anyone anymore. These were people I worked with hand in hand every day. And, but I thought to myself, you know what? I'm strong. I'll land quickly. I've never really gone more than 45 days without having a job. I've always landed something within that first 30 or 45 days of losing my job due to downsizing or reorganizations. And I'd been through that numerous times. So I'll be fine. 45 days later, a lot of computer rejections, no job on the table, no real prospects. A friend of mine said, come on with me to Grace. I just landed my job and I get to bring the donuts. So I went with her and I sat there with a really heavy heart. And they go around the room. Wes Tang and Wes Roper are absolute disciples of Christ. They're fantastic. And they went around the room, and it came to me, and I was supposed to introduce myself and talk about the companies that I was looking at. And when it came to me, all I could do was cry. It was hard. And everyone there made me feel so great and so loved. And they're just fantastic. So if you haven't, right now we're doing this virtually. There's no hugs. There's no consoling. It's all virtual, right? When we get to go in person again, hopefully this fall, you'll get those hugs and you'll get the pats on the backs and you'll see people in person, and it's warm and it's reassuring to let you know you're not the only one in the situation. And whether or not you are in a job search because you were forced into the process, maybe you took some time out for a while and are trying to get back into the job force, or you're just kind of seeing if you want to change careers, there's support there. And it's a really good group. So think about that and make sure you try and attend some of those Thursday mornings. During my transition of a little over 9 months, I struggled. I struggled financially, mentally, and spiritually. Financially, it was tough. I happened to be a single mom, and I had a couple couple kids, and it's a tough thing. And whether or not you're single, you could be the breadwinner for the family, or your bills could just require you to definitely need a job. And, there's resources there too. At Christmas time, they do, the Minnesota Crossroads puts on this great event held at Grace Church. And it's a wonderful opportunity to not only network with those who are in transition, but network with executives and managers from company. And hopefully, Harry, we're going to do that again this year. But that's where I really got to know Skip Nelson and the Thrivent group. They had a tree there, and it was filled with gas cards and gift cards. And it was a tough time at Christmas that year. I had been out of work for a while, and I was on my way out, and Skip said, "Hey, Jane, come on, grab a couple gift cards." And he gave me some gas cards, and I was going 44 miles one way to network down at Grace. So that gas card was really important to me, and as was the Target gift card, which I used to buy some Christmas gifts for my kids. And, there's people there, they probably didn't even realize what an impact that they made on my life, but they did. And as you're going through the financial struggles too, Skip Nelson, as Harry mentioned, was going to do the opening. He can help you. He can sit down and talk with you. He's not going to try and sell you something. He's just going to try and help you. So there are great people in this organization that can really assist you. I was doing everything right during that process, everything people tell you to do, and yet I wasn't getting a job. And one night I was in a small group. So there are all these small groups. I do facilitate one. I will be facilitating one, hopefully this fall at North Heights. And I was sitting there afterwards with Harry, and almost everyone in the group had been finding jobs, and I still hadn't. And I said to Harry, what am I doing wrong? And he looked at me and he said, "You haven't turned it over to Christ yet." He said, "Keep doing what you're doing. Keep focusing. And you just really need to trust that there's a reason behind this." And I left in tears. He probably doesn't know that, but I did. I got in my car and started crying. And I thought about it overnight, and I got up in the morning and I thought, that's it. I need to turn this over to Christ. And then I had coffee with Natalie Ackerman. And Natalie, if you're listening, I'm going to share a little insight, but we started talking about the Holy Spirit, something I hadn't really felt before. And she made me start looking deeper inside as well. And in that same small group of Harry, one of the individuals in there said one night, she said, "Why did it take until now for me to start going back to church?" And I thought about that too. And I think about that all the time, because sometimes on Sunday mornings, I don't go to church. And then it reminds me, you should. It's kind of important, at least for me. Doesn't mean everybody else has to, but these things started hitting me all at the same time. And then there's a book called Jesus Always. Get it. It's a quick read, 1 page a day. And my pages are pretty torn up, but it really, before you look at your phone, the TV, which is what we all do when we wake up, take literally 20 seconds to read the page, and it will fill you up. And when I finally turned it over to Christ in the Spirit, I felt lighter. And I was networking with a guy one day, and I said to him, "I'm just so excited because I'm going to get my job here. Something's going to happen by the end of May before my unemployment runs out." And he said, "So how many things do you have going right now?" And I said, "Actually, nothing. I've just been rejected 4 times. 3 of those, I was in the last of the 2. And one of them, I was told I had the job and they gave me a dollar amount. And the next day, the hiring manager's best friend lost his job and he hired him instead." I said, "So I just had 4 really bad hits in my gut, but I feel really good about this. And I trust that it's going to happen." In the last few days, things started happening. I didn't have my job by the end of May, but things started moving. And on June 6th, I got a call from a recruiter who found me. And he found me on LinkedIn, a very critical piece of your transition. And we talked. The next morning, they posted the job. 5 days later, they took the posting down. I was called in. I had a phone screen. Next day, I had an interview. And I interviewed with one person, just one, in one interview. And I received the offer the next day. So from June 6th to June 25th, I went from a recruiter finding me on LinkedIn, the job not even having posted yet, to getting an offer by Wells Fargo on June 25th. That's only 19 days. And everyone said, Wells Fargo doesn't do anything in 19 days. And I said, well, they did with me. And I only interviewed with one person. And you know why? Because nothing's impossible with Christ. And I trusted that. And I really did. So not only did I get that offer, the day before I had actually accepted a job with another company. And that one had happened starting in the end of May. And I was in the final interview stage with 2 other large corporations in the final stages in the Twin Cities. That was me totally turning everything over to Christ. And at Wells Fargo, it wasn't the highest paying position, but I looked at it as this was the best opportunity for me. Now it is here 2 years later, and I'm not sure if this is the best place to be. And I haven't really started a full search yet, but I'm thinking about it. And I'm open about that with my boss. And I like Wells Fargo. I just need more. And so we'll see. I may stay and we'll just see how it goes. But the one thing is, we know, as I talked about, change is inevitable. And each and every one of you may be looking in another year or 2, even after you land your job, or you may have been looking when I was looking and now you're in transition again. So no matter what, keep your network alive, work with those around you. I've made lifelong friends through Minnesota Crossroads. And these are people I truly love and care about. I didn't know a thing about Grace Church before my friend asked me to go down on the day that she had to bring her donuts. And they helped me through my transition. I will be happy to help you. Link in with me, network with me. You want to do a virtual coffee? I'll do an in-person coffee. I'm vaccinated and I'm not afraid to meet with anyone in person. But many of the people in this program have suffered the same pain, anxiety, curiosity, and worry that some of you may be feeling. And so we can be your rocks. We can be your cheerleaders. We can provide you with support, and we will do that for you. Don't look at networking as a difficult thing to do. It can be actually pretty fun, but make sure that you, there's a 30-minute networking book, grab that. Keep your networking short and concise, because I'll tell you, when I first started at Wells Fargo, I networked at least 2 or 3 days a week for a coffee with people in our building downtown. And I really appreciated those who came, sat down, provided me their resume in advance of the networking, and we went through things. They told me what they needed from me. We talked through it, and within 20 minutes, because I have to get back to work. And most of the people you're networking with have to get back to work. So it's great to talk about kids and stuff quickly if somebody has time, but really follow that networking in 30-minute book, and it can really help you keep it concise. And you will be better respected by the person that you're networking with if they are working full-time. So just a little tip there. Look at growing your contacts as learning. You're going to learn about them. You're going to learn about the company, and make sure at the end of it, you ask them if there's anyone that they think can help you in your search that you should network with. And that's when you'll continue to grow your network. This is really a phenomenal organization. I mentioned Grace at the beginning, and Grace, networking with Grace is Thursday mornings. And Barb Bursch, who's one of the original founders of Minnesota Crossroads, told me when we were redoing the website and thinking about, kind of changing colors. We used to be at tan and more sepia tone type organization. Now we're more the blue and white, following the national brands. But Barb mentioned to me one night, she goes, networking with Grace is not about Grace Church. Grace is help given to us by God, because God desires us to have it. And Grace just happened to be the name of the church as well. So it's kind of like a little double entendre there. But take that help from God. Take that help from others, the grace that they're willing to give you, and all the people in this program. I want to reach out and thank Harry and everyone in this team. They make themselves available, and they work so hard to ensure that you and I have support when we need it. I call Harry. I ask him questions. I ask him for advice, and others within the program, and you can make lifelong friends. And so I want to thank everyone who's been walking with me through my journey, because it's a lifelong journey. This is not a journey just to find your next job or your next career. Look at it as a lifelong journey, and everything you're going to learn from Kendall next and the other speakers. If you haven't gone to Minnesota Crossroads Career Network and watched some of the YouTube videos, do that. And mainly, I want to thank Christ and the Spirit for allowing me to talk to you today and being there through my journey. So if you want to network with me, reach out on LinkedIn, and best of luck to everyone. Thanks, Harry.
Jane, thank you. One of the things that is clear from Jane speaking that I think is just so critically important is the need for community and support from others. Trying to do this alone, this is tough enough, and trying to do it alone makes it even tougher and makes it even more of an emotional roller coaster. And especially this past year, I think people have felt so isolated and alone at home trying to go through this. And so take advantage of all the opportunities you can to interact with others and get support from positive people. Thanks so much, Jane. I really appreciate it. I am really grateful to introduce Kendall Qualls, and I'm going to take an extra minute on this introduction because he's someone I greatly admire and have a great deal of respect for. As a young kid, he grew up in a single parent home in the projects in Harlem, New York, surrounded by gangs, and then moved to a trailer park in Oklahoma. Huge upgrade, right? Neither of his parents finished high school. He could have very easily become a statistic, but he had bigger dreams. He went to college, became a captain in the US Army, got an MBA from the University of Michigan, and rose to executive level roles in Fortune 100 companies, small ones like Medtronic and Johnson & Johnson. He's got a beautiful wife. He's been married for 35 years and has 5 children. Then there's an excellent book by Bob Buford called Halftime. The premise of the book is that many people spend the first half of their lives pursuing success, and then some shift to pursuing a life of significance. I have no idea whether Kendall has read the book or not, but he's certainly living it out. This January, he launched an organization called Take Charge, whose mission is to help the Black community to return to its historical roots of centering on family, faith, and education. And it feels like that's really what's been missing in the last few decades. He's gained national attention, and I'm very grateful he was willing to speak on this webinar for us today. He's someone that knows what discrimination is and so can speak with authority on the topic. And I know he's going to bring great insight for you today. If you have any questions or want to engage in some other ways with him, use the chat box. And by the way, on that chat box, if you are from outside of the Twin Cities area, let us know through there as well. We'd love to hear where you're watching from today as well. But really glad to have Kendall join us this morning.
Well, Harry, thank you so much for that introduction. Very humbled by that. I am so glad to be involved with this organization. Just listening to the introduction, the services that they provide, it's a complete honor to be here this morning. And let me just reassure you, first of all, if you're in the job market and you've been looking for a while, trust me, all of us have been there. And if I can provide any encouragement for you, is that many of us have been there, we've gone through it. And I just want to spend this time to encourage you, but also give you some tips to help you along the way. Now, some of the things I may share with you today will sound and may look redundant, but hopefully there's a few things that I shared that will be some insights, that will be a nugget, if you will, to repackage or revise your marketing package, your brand, if you will, to make you that much more competitive in the marketplace and hopefully land the job that you want. So with that said, I am going to share my screen here and take you through today's kind of like conversation with Kendall, if you will. Okay. So guys, what you're going to hear today is over the 27 years of my corporate experience, not just as a vice president, a global vice president of one of these big companies, but also as a, I would say, a first-line contributor, individual contributor, first-line manager, and then obviously all the way up the ranks of corporate VP. But also a person that had a family at the same time and had to balance all of those responsibilities with their love of their family and love of their faith. So with that said, let's get started. You know, I often hear a lot about, you know, I'm struggling with my job search, not sure if the issue now is about my race, or is it about my age, or is it sex, or is it something else? And before we get to any of the isms, before you go there, it's so important to have a conversation or even a look and reevaluate the landscape, if you will. So I want us to kind of go up a little bit higher, 30,000 foot level, look at the job market, look at you as a candidate before you get to, hey, is it about me personally? Because once you go there, it's hard to change your consonants. It's your attitude changes, even unconsciously, you may not even realize how you're coming across. So what I like to do is before we get to any of the isms, let's elevate a little bit about the marketplace and us as a candidate. And so I want to give you an idea. Whenever there's a job that's posted, there's at least 118 people that's going to apply for that job. And when we look at the numbers, in fact, what we're going to do this morning is we're going to look at a qualitative and a quantitative look at the marketplace, because that's how people make decisions. We make decisions based on data as well as subjective best decisions that we can make over the course of experience. So when we look at this, typically working with a recruiter, the hiring manager will whittle it down to 7 candidates that they'll review their resumes. Of those 7, they may pick the top 3 to go to one stage. And typically what I've seen that gets to the hiring manager, at least 1 or 2 candidates that moves forward. So just have this as a backdrop. And again, this may be redundant for you, but this kind of gives you an overall, 30,000 foot level picture. Here's some interesting stats for you. It's very interesting around this. This is why I go back to make sure before you get to, well, I'm too old for the marketplace, or they consider me too old for the marketplace, or I might be too expensive for my compensation today just because they're looking for younger talent. Or is it because of my race? Is it because, it's a male-dominated industry? One of the things that we've found is that, and I've seen this, is that candidates may even lose just because they come to the marketplace or they come to the interview with a consonance of where they don't seem to have a very good attitude, or there's a bit of a sarcasm in the jokes that they make, or any other instance where their best foot is not forward. You don't want to be one of those people. You don't want to be one of those people where you regret not having the best face on, because people will make those first impressions in 7 seconds. Literally 7 seconds can be the go or no-go decision of your candidacy. You don't want to be one of these 39% of the people here. So again, it's always important that you remember that confidence is contagious, okay? Another one, nearly half of the people that get rejected, and this is recent data, didn't know enough about the company they were interviewing with. Now think about this for a minute. I've seen this actually happen. As a vice president, interviewed managers and director level candidates that didn't know the mission statement of the company, even though the mission statement's published on the website. They didn't know things about the different business units within the company. So really do your homework on the companies. And here's what I would advise you to do just a little bit more. I always tell candidates, it's amazing. The only difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little bit extra. So for example, publicly traded companies must file with the SEC, what's going on in their company. So basically not just the financials, but what's in the pipeline, what's in the R&D pipeline. You can actually take a look at what's the future growth looks like in a company by what are they banking on and their pipeline of new product introductions. Are they confident about that? Do they feel that they have to go more outside the company and acquire the growth that they're wanting to achieve? So be knowledgeable about the forward edge and the forward-looking component of the company as well. A lot of people like to talk about the popular products that are on the marketplace, the popular services that the companies are known for today, but what does the future look like? And you can find that information in a lot of the SEC filings online, and you can go to Yahoo Finance or any of the places about a company and look in their 10K for that information. 71% of employers wouldn't hire someone because they didn't feel like they followed the dress code or inappropriate dress code during the interview process. You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation just before we got on the call about some of these companies have gone really casual. You know, t-shirts and jeans and tennis shoes and that type of thing. But the expectations for their candidates is business attire. So make sure you understand when you go in what the expectations are for candidates. I was surprised at how significant that number is. 70% is huge. This is not a statistic from 1990, 1980s as far as the dress code. This is today. So you want to make sure that you don't get your wires crossed as far as the casual expectation for employees, because you're not an employee there yet, okay? You're not hired there as one of the team members. You're going in to be one of those. And just don't make those assumptions up front. It's very important. So as we go forward, what I want to share with you about the job market itself and you as a candidate, even though you've been in the marketplace, if you've been in the marketplace for quite some time, I just want to share with you, just like Jane mentioned, don't be discouraged. Be around people that can help build your confidence, reassure you, and really dig into your faith here. These are times that try the best of us, but also during these times is that if you are a follower of Jesus Christ or you do have a faith, this is the time where your faith really counts the most. 63% of recruiters today, actually this was last year's survey, found that employers are struggling because they can't find the right talent. This is even consistent from 2019, from 2 years ago. 70% of employers could not find the right talent for their organization. So this is great news. That means that you have skill set, you have experience that needs to be packaged in a way that employers find that this is the right person for us, for our company. And it just needs to be packaged in a way that they understand it and it's clearly articulated. And everything else that comes with that. Do you have the right chemistry with the organization? Is there a good match? But right now, more than ever, I believe, especially in our market, if you're in the Twin Cities, such a diverse economy here locally, that that skill set you have should be able to be a good match for employers in the market. So that was the marketplace we just talked about. Now let's take a look specifically about the candidate pool and you as a candidate yourself. Okay, so there are two types of markets that once you enter the job marketplace. Okay, two types of markets. You want to be in one of them more so than the other. So you think about the marketplace that no one ever reads about and really knows about, and it's actually even hard to quantify sometimes. But that marketplace is the ones that you never hear about the job because it's never posted. This is about the strength of your network, and having someone share with you about openings that are coming up. It always happens at the beginning of the year. There are people that are transitioning or moving out of roles and positions voluntarily and sometimes involuntarily about openings. So what do we do in the middle of the year? Well, this happens as well. Typically, after the summer lull, going into the fall, you'll see a spike as well, changes in the job market. And this again is about letting people know that you're actively looking, and that before anyone else knows about the job posting, that you can actually find out about that. And then again, as you see in this slide, there's that 30 to 40%, that's the reactive market. So again, there's two marketplaces, which one you want to play in. And again, I want to double down on this slide because it's so important. It tells you, even for those people that are not looking for a job, passive people in the marketplace, how referrals and their network is instrumental in them finding new roles. And obviously those that are in an active marketplace, again, your network and referral references, that type of thing, are the ones that really drive that job search and getting that and landing that job. Okay. I want to go into this one a little bit further because as an employer, as a hiring manager, one of the main things that you want to do is mitigate risk, especially as managers get higher up in the organization. Oftentimes the skill sets are very similar. And what you're deciding on between a candidate is more chemistry and fit and character, those type of things. And so when a hiring manager has a referral, internal referral, or a friend that can make a recommendation, one of the things they're doing is mitigating risk of choosing the wrong candidate. And oftentimes it's not because of competency, it's because of a cultural fit and the values of that particular hire. So again, this is why this is so critical. And again, if you look at the bottom of this pyramid, you'll see the point on the right is that this is the most competitive part. Once the job becomes announced, that's where the competition comes in. You'll be more competitive here with people with like skill sets. All right. So again, I think more than anything, in some cases, it's not about your strengths, it's about the strength of your network. So a lot of the things that mentioned by Harry, by Jane earlier, about some of the opportunities you have to network with people, and not only with your church or friends that may be at church, but again, the professional association organizations, your alumni. Again, those are things that you want to consider as far as expanding, and if you haven't tapped into. All right, you might say, well, you know what? My job search is a little bit more challenging than most. The situation, I'm senior in my role, and it's here's some of the challenges. It's going to take you longer because at the top of the pyramid or near the top of the pyramid, there are fewer and fewer roles at those senior levels, so it's going to take you longer. There's just less opportunity, but also you think about from a financial standpoint, you're earning more money, so it's going to be a more expensive decision for those employers. And so one of the things that I have people consider when they're at that level is to expand their scope. Unfortunately, it may require that you relocate or actually have to travel remotely for those opportunities. You might want to consider any like a short-term step back in the role. If you were a senior VP, you might want to consider going to a VP or senior director role in order for you to reach your ultimate goal back to where you were previously. Consider consulting. You think about all the years of experience that you have. Can you help organizations with that skill set on a temporary basis or ad hoc basis until you land your ultimate position? Okay. So here's another one. Well, Kendall, that's great, but you know what? I got a little gray up there, and I've been around for a long time, and what I'm finding is age discrimination. It's the unwritten word or the unwritten kind of feedback. Well, yeah, yes and no. Again, have you consider some things about your job search. The challenges you may face and again, a lot of these are perceptions more than realities. Are you perceived too old, or are you on the downward slope of your career? A lot of hiring managers may consider it not necessarily a good cultural fit. All of these things can be changed and modified based on what you actively do in the interview, even before. Are there active components that you have in your package? Do you publish? Do you write? Are there things that you do that constantly have you in the presence in the marketplace? LinkedIn has a lot of resources that demonstrate how effective you've been in the marketplace as far as publishing some of the work you've done. Those are just one example that you can do. But at the end of the day, is this like know the company that you're trying to that you're trying to get recruited to, or you're trying to join. So first of all, if the average age of the people that you see in an organization, or if they're younger than your youngest child, okay, it may be a mismatch. You may even want to consider actually looking at smaller companies that would appreciate the experience that you have, because a lot of those small companies and startup companies don't have that experience. They need that adult in the room, if you will. So there are things to think about. Here's one that often might become somewhat not controversial, but I'll give you encouragement. I always look at this as our jobs in the, I would call it, civilian marketplace. We're not professional athletes, but our careers are much longer than a professional athlete. They stay in shape, they stay conditioned in the off season. So in the season that they're competitive, they're competitive during the game, when the season's on. Well, our seasons are never off. We don't have an off season. So staying in shape, being up on the current readings, and just making sure that we're aligned or have the latest abilities when it comes to new technology is absolutely critical. So being competitive from a professional athlete is the same kind of analogy that we need to be in our marketplace, in the job market. It's constantly, the bar is always going up. Are we moving along with the bar, and staying above it in a lot of cases, to make sure that we're delivering value at the end of the day to our employer. So, are you a diversity candidate? So this is getting into some of the isms. Hey, is it because I'm a person of color, or is it something else? Yeah, at the end of the day, especially now, there's no better time. I think that is the big hot button every day now is, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So again, this is more about what I want to focus on, is about how you packaging yourself to the marketplace and coming across to the decision makers about your candidacy and the skill set you deliver to the market. So I have some final thoughts and recommendations, and from my experiences that come to fruition every time. And so just some things to consider. So number one is that the market needs people like you. It doesn't matter how long you've been out there, you just haven't found the right company yet, the right hiring manager, and a lot of it could do just with chemistry. So employers are still having difficulty finding the right type of people for in their companies. Okay, you are the right person for the right company. You just haven't found it yet. If you're still looking, okay, just haven't found it yet. Okay, even if you're not a leader, employers are looking for people with leadership qualities. They want the qualities. Again, even if you're not a leader, they definitely want them if you're a leader. But here are some of the things that I have found over time that just resonate strongly in candidates. Again, even if you're not going for a leadership role. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I'm going to tell you there's some that just stand out more than others. People like being around people that motivate others, motivate them for good ideas, spur them on during difficult times. So this motivate others is just absolutely critical. Do you bring energy into the room, or do you suck energy out of it? You want to be the type of people that brings the energy in. Okay. I always think this is the most important thing for me too, is drive results. There are some people that talk about how busy they are. They're activity based, not results oriented based. So in fact, my idea of measurement, I never measure the time that the people that worked for me in the past. I've never measured the time, how much time they spend at work or in the office. It's about the results they've accomplished. I share with them, look, you can do that from home. You can do it on the moon. I could care less. What we want to be judged by is the results, and again, and how we work well with others. So this whole thing, I'm not going to go through this entire list, but think about these. I'll make these slides available to Harry so you can have these. But companies and people like working around leaders, even if they're not in leadership roles. Some other options to consider if you've been in the job market a while and you're still kind of contemplating what do you want to do with your future in the next chapter of your life. Hey, is it time to change industries? You know, sometimes there are some industries that are on the downward slope or they're stagnant, and basically they're just trading some individuals to another company. They're just swapping people back and forth, and it's not in a growth mode. You want to be in an industry, in a company that's in the growth mode. It's always exciting when companies are in a growth mode, and obviously when industries are growing. But is it time to change industries? For me, for example, I've been in the healthcare industry for nearly 30 years. Half of that time has been in the biopharma industry, from the very beginning, from sales management to marketing, and leading marketing teams. And I transitioned later in my career, halfway to med tech, again, sales and marketing. Now, the industries are related, very close similarities, but they couldn't be further from the two different. It's incredibly incredible for me how different these two industries were, even though they're very similar in nature, as far as the customer base, the overall accomplishments with patients. But consider that. Is there a time for an industry change in a very similar, like-minded type of industry? Hey, have you always wanted to start a business? So you think about all the years you've been working. Obviously, you have an employer that's paying you anywhere, a 5-figure salary, a 6-figure salary. They're doing that because you're bringing that value to the organization for them. And in fact, not only that value of your salary, in order for them to be successful, you have to be bringing them that value of your salary times 3, at least, a 3-to-1 ratio. So could you potentially do that for yourself? Again, not saying that everyone that's an employee can be an employer, but it's the time to evaluate your position to see if this is something that's potentially something for you to explore. You know, this is about really challenging or channeling your lifelong experiences and things that you enjoy doing. Can you channel that in a direction that benefits you the most? So those are the things I want for you to consider. At the end of the day, what I want to inspire you to do is don't give up. Don't be in despair. There's God-given talents that you have. The idea is trying to find where you want to channel those talents, not just for you to earn a salary, but where you feel fulfilled, you know, professionally, personally, emotionally, and spiritually. So with that said, what I would like for you to do, just consider this. If you think it's, you know, because of your age, your sex, your race, you look at the job market, you look at people that are employed today, many of them look just like you. You know, they're older, let's just call them mature people. They're people with of color and different sexes, male and female. And so there's an opportunity for you in the marketplace. Don't be discouraged. Take a look at your package. Hopefully I've shared some things for you to consider, to refine in your job search, and hopefully be successful in the near future in landing that job that you would like, for you to be completely fulfilled in what you're doing in your life. With that said, I want to conclude here and open up for any questions.
Thanks so much, Kendall. If you are online and can put questions into the chat box, glad to have Kendall address those for you. I will read off those questions to him. But Kendall, while we're waiting to see on that, do you want to talk a little bit about Take Charge, what your focus is and what you've experienced so far?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you for that opportunity. You know, this is interesting. You know, you talk about the next chapter in your life and channeling all your skill set. You know, over the last 27 years or so, I've always been in the private sector, never wanted to be involved in politics. And Never thought I would actually run be involved in a nonprofit. But it's amazing how different doors open up for you to consider, and what value you can bring to the marketplace, even if that value and that product is your ideas and encouragement. And that's what Take Charge is. It's this idea that the idea of America works. It can work for anyone, regardless of race, regardless of social standing in life, where you start in life. And I tell people it's worked for me, not just me, but millions of others. And I know that there's a narrative out there that the country is systemically racist, and what Take Charge does, it fights against that narrative. It's very divisive, very divisive, I think, narrative, and one that I actually believe is a false narrative. So that's what Take Charge is about. It fights against that narrative. But I also go into the Black community of the Twin Cities, and to your point earlier, is to remind them that we did not used to live like this in the Black community. That we were really focused on faith, family, and education, and that unfortunately, in the course of my life, in my lifetime, we've gone from 80% two-parent families to 80% fatherless homes, and that we're on a coursework to return that. In fact, we've made that whole transition to 80% fatherless homes without one initiative, one national initiative to reverse the trend. And we're going to make that happen coming out of the Twin Cities.
That's terrific. We do have a question. I'm not sure I understand it. Judy, if you can maybe clarify a little bit, but she says, how do you research a company with the purpose to stop human trafficking? Are you, I'm assuming, referring to an organization that is involved in stopping human trafficking, and how to research them better? Judy, if you can type in a clarification for that, we're glad to address that for you. But you mentioned, I think, a couple of ways to research organizations in your presentation already, but any additional ideas? Where do you get more information?
Sure. So again, if you go to the company's website, they have their annual report. So in that annual report are their financial performance for the previous year. They're obviously their corporate leadership team, and again, how their business is structured. What's their customer base? What are the challenges that they see in the future? And what areas of their R&D pipeline are they're looking to penetrate? As far is it further in the existing market they're in today, or are they looking to go into new markets? So those are the type of things that you can take a look at as far as having a better understanding of the company in the current state and what they're looking at to do in the future.
Terrific. And she says yes to how to figure out if an organization is legitimate. There is, and maybe you know it, Kendall, but there is a service out there that reports financials for nonprofit organizations. Is STAR something?
Yeah, this is our first year. It's interesting. So we started Take Charge here in January, and we're 7 months into this, and it's amazing. I've gotten calls from other locations, from 21 other locations, to start chapters all throughout the country. Because of our core mission values and the principles that we stand for. In regards to the new reporting structures, the new organization, I'm still getting familiar with those type of agencies, Harry. So I'm not well versed in the similar reporting structures they have in the private sector.
I can appreciate that. The next question is addressing more mature professionals. I'll get to it. I've been, as you know, I've been a recruiter for 34 years, and now I'm a partner in a retained executive search firm, and have seen a lot of people and a lot of challenges people face in their job search, and through Crossroads as well. And while I'm not naive to say that there isn't discrimination out there, I mean, certainly there is, but not anywhere to the degree that I think a lot of people think it is. And I think, and you addressed it really well in your presentation, that so many times it's you need to look internally first, and how are you presenting yourself? What challenges are you creating for yourself in the job search process before you assume that it's one of the isms that's keeping you back. I think you address that really well. But in any case, this question says, what recommendations would you give a mature professional seeking to start out on a serious consulting role versus taking that consultative subject matter expert approach to a company as a full-time employee? How might a company best receive an inquiry from an independent consultant with what they believe is a needed service? So how do you strike out on your own instead of looking for that full-time position?
Well, first of all, just when striking on your own, again, it's all about risk mitigation. If a company can get a problem solved without taking on the risk and what they would consider burden or cost of a full-time employee, but they can still address the risk, I mean, this is a win-win for them. So the first one is, are you coming to the market? Are you coming to to a company solving a problem that they have? And if you can do that as a consultant, it's a win-win for them. You're solving the problem, and they don't have to go through the process of getting a full-time headcount and getting that approved all the way up the chain of an organization. Many companies have a budget, or they can find a budget for a consultant. That's easy. The harder part is getting the approval for a full-time headcount. Now, what happens, I've seen this happen, is once you start solving that problem for them, and you've been around and you're a trusted source, a trusted consultant, getting conversion to an employee is an easier step. Again, that's the decision you got to make if you want to do that. But trust me, that the marketplace is fraught with problems and issues and challenges that companies have. They struggle with the solution. So if you have that solution, if you have that process, especially if you can quantify it, and if you've done a feasibility or you've done some type of project where that solution, your solution, has actually worked in another organization, it's even better. It's even better for you, and it's better for them.
Excellent. Somebody had mentioned GuideStar does the financial reporting for nonprofits, and so that's one way to check out if a place is legitimate. And somebody else mentioned public libraries are a great resource with a tremendous number of databases available to research companies and organizations for free. So check that out too. Somebody else is referring to cases where it becomes clear that there is illegal discrimination going on. When that happens, what do you suggest?
So here's what I have to say around that, especially for large companies. So if a lawsuit's been filed or someone's filed, and I know several, the companies that I've worked for in the past have been sued. Typically, it happens in a business unit. So when you have a company, an organization that has 50,000, 60,000, maybe even 100,000 employees, it's not that the entire company is being, yes, the entire company is being sued, but the lawsuit didn't come from, all the hiring managers. It happened in one business unit or might happen in one section of a company. It doesn't make the entire company contaminated. So I wouldn't be intimidated or overly concerned. If anything, if a company is being sued and they've had that lawsuit, they're going to be more concerned about making sure that they're not perceived that way. And if anything, that you would be a candidate that they would take for serious consideration. Harry,
Absolutely.
I mean, you would have insight on that. I mean, am I saying something that is inconsistent from your experience?
No, I think these days most companies are overly concerned, or not overly concerned, but very concerned about not having those kind of issues. Obviously, it's a PR nightmare for them if that kind of a lawsuit comes up. And so it's obviously it's not that it doesn't exist, but it's very isolated, as you said.
Yeah, and I want to also give you, I just want to reinforce that point I was making earlier. I've worked for large companies where I get asked all the time, oh, I know someone that's worked there. His name is such and such. I may, even though we work in the same building, because of our business unit structure, it's like a small company within a big company. I may never, ever come across that person in my entire 30, and I've seen it happen. People work in companies for 30 years and they never meet or interact with people in other business units. So with that being said, again, a lawsuit may be filed in one business unit and it may be totally different culture, different systems, different everything in a different business unit underneath the big umbrella of the company name.
Agreed. And, you know, as you're alluding to there is culture in an organization can, especially for large companies, can vary dramatically depending on where you sit. And one business unit can feel very, very different than another. And, you know, if you're reporting up through one hiring manager, it can feel very different than if you're reporting through another. And so evaluating each organization and each job based on that structure where you would be sitting is important. And I think too often people dismiss a company saying, you know, I wouldn't want to work there. I hear it's got a terrible culture. Well, is it the right culture for you? Because even in companies that have bad reputations, I guarantee there's people there that love their job, and it's a matter of, does it fit you or not? You need to know yourself well enough and be able to ask questions to figure that out. But I think you're right, is that when there are those kind of challenges, it tends to be very limited. Someone's asking if you're an attorney. I don't think.
Well, typically when I get a question like that, there's a question behind the question. So I'll let them, you know, respond to that. So no, I'm not an attorney, but typically that question leads to a different one. So, you know, if there's a question behind the question, I'd be happy to answer that one as well.
I understand. We're getting a few people that have to go, but just thanking you for your time and just the great content on the presentation, and I appreciate that. So the follow-up question on the attorney is, so how do you know these legal statutes?
Again, I'm not sure what statutes. I didn't reference statutes.
Right, I agree. I think there's someone that has been having a bad experience and can appreciate those challenges exist, but
yeah,
we can't go into specifics on this. Are there what do you have coming up with Take Charge? What's next?
So I'm doing a lot of series of speaking engagements across the state, across the country, on ways that really puts into perspective what critical race theory really is and what it's not. And from my perspective, how it's, I believe, really dividing our country and ways that we can take steps moving forward. The other part of this too, I'm very excited, just we're expanding this whole idea in the Black community of taking back the narrative of helping to move our culture in a direction that goes back to its historical roots. The people that are joining to be volunteers in the Black community is expanding every week. I'm really humbled and honored to do that. They're really the boots on the ground, if you will. And the videos that we're producing are helping to create the narrative as well. That we want to provide encouragement to people that may be born into difficult circumstances. There's ways to have a different future in their life. And so we're recruiting people again, locally to help spread that message. And the neat thing about it is that we're getting people from across the country that are willing to take part in this as well.
Terrific. I don't think we plugged it before, but people can find out all the details and see all the information you have on your website at takechargemn.org, correct?
Right.
And that's, by the way, a nice site. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It's, yep, takechargemn.com. You'll find it .org, but it's .com as well. And
okay.
Again, very, very incredible and uptake that we've already gotten so far. And I'm sure we're going to even do more. So it's pretty exciting. We have a big program that we're scheduling for November 5th. We're going to have Jason Riley here. Jason Riley is an editor from Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
We're going to have him as a guest speaker at a program that we're going to be hosting and announcing on November 5th.
That's excellent. I we'll definitely have to check that out myself. I've seen Jason Riley on a number of other things, and a great resource.
Yeah.
Somebody's just looking forward to checking out more about Take Charge. Doesn't seem like we have any other questions at this point. Kendall, thanks again for the information, for your viewpoint on this, and for taking the time this morning. Really grateful for that. For everyone else participating, we're really glad you were able to join us today. You can check out all the details on our website. Our next webinar is next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. And it's with John McMunn. We'll be talking about being the voice and not the echo in your job search, standing out from all the other candidates that an organization may be seeing. And John does an excellent presentation. I really encourage you to check that out as well. But check out our next couple of webinars, and then in person starting in September. We're going to be, the first Thursday in September is going to be at Grace Church, and we're looking forward to having employers there, as well as networking opportunities. So it's worth coming in person and being with others, but you can watch it online as well. We are going to continue to live stream them so that we give everybody the opportunity to participate. Reach out anytime if you have any questions, and thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to wrap up a little bit early here today, but glad that you were able to join us. Have a great day.